Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about the attack that happened last Friday night in Croydon, or, more specifically, one retard that decided to give her opinion on it. As some of you may be aware, there was a horrific attack on a 17-year-old asylum seeker in Croydon last Friday. 13 people are now being charged with various degrees of assault, up to and including grievous bodily harm and an attempted murder. Most media outlets reported the event factually, and I was surprised to see not a single mention of Brexit in the articles I read. It seemed as though we'd finally accepted that these were individuals committing these crimes. But then something I didn't expect happened. The Shadow Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, has come out to say that the Conservative government are to blame. There has been a rise in hate crime since the Brexit vote, and she blames the Conservatives for not having prevented them. She said that they have yet to offer any effective response to it. I'd just like to analyse that statement a bit. Now, I've read the reports on the incident in Croydon, and the victim was not known to the attackers prior to the event. They attacked him after asking where he was from, when they found him at a bus stop at 20 to midnight. How, Diane, was the Conservative government expected to stop this random act of violence? It's not like preventing terrorist attacks, most of which have months of planning and require the use of the internet or phones in order to gather resources or communicate with co-conspirators. There was no monitoring that the government could have done, which would have found these people to be the violent xenophobes that they are, prior to the attack. The only thing the government can do is react, and that's what they've done. The offending individuals were arrested and are being tried for their actions. Abbott blames Brexit for the rise in hate crime. Things stand now as they stood at the time of the vote. There were these people voting for Brexit, but by no means were they the majority of those voting for Brexit. Unless she's seriously suggesting that 17.5 million people are condoning these attacks. They may feel empowered by Brexit, but it's just as likely that they're frustrated because they're still not going to get the British-only utopia that they had in their heads. Or maybe, Diane, this could be attributed to the much more recent terrorist attack on Westminster that happened less than 2 weeks ago. Maybe these idiots just didn't read that it was a British citizen. We don't know though, because it's all speculation. But there's one thing that's certain. The government cannot be blamed for not preventing events that they conceivably cannot be expected to predict. She says that right-wing politicians across the world are scapegoating migrants, refugees and others for their economic problems. Unfortunately, with the exception of the odd bullshit comment from Trump, it isn't scapegoating because it is based on facts. These people aren't the biggest cause of economic problems, that's for sure, but claiming that they don't contribute at all is her being willingly ignorant. She then goes on to say we must make clear that there is no place for anti-foreigner myths, racism and hate in our society. Now, I agree that there is no place for racism in our society. However, we have very different views on what constitutes racism, as evidenced by her saying anti-foreigner myths. Her view of racism is anything negative towards these people. My view is anything unfair towards anyone based on their race. Not allowing us to criticise people, because that's what you'd be doing, is saying that we're not allowed to question the actions of these people based on their race, ethnicity or nationality. Obviously the asylum seeker was in no way harming anyone, and any all Muslims are terrorists thoughts are complete bollocks. However, there are a number of immigrants who do cause problems. That's not to say that the majority do, only that when you talk about censoring what we can and can't say about these people, you're treading a dangerous line of not allowing us to hold them accountable in the same way we hold each other accountable. To have them treated equally, we have to treat them equally. No exceptions, no censorship. Punish those that are violent, correct those who are factually incorrect, but don't stop them from speaking and discussing. Now, I didn't do too much research into Diane Abbott's opinions before I wrote the majority of the script for this episode. However, it turns out that Diane Abbott is well known for stirring the pot when it comes to racism. She has in the past claimed that British people invented racism, said that people from predominantly white areas are unsuitable to treat black people in hospitals, and has spread several other anti-white messages, all of which has had other MPs speaking out against her. Nick Clegg calling her comments stupid and crass generalizations, and Nadhim Zahawi saying that had she been a white person saying the things she had said about black people, she'd have resigned within the hour or have been sacked. She is entirely unable to have an objective opinion where race is concerned. If she were able to suggest even one way that the government could be combating these spontaneous crimes, her opinion would have infinitely more credibility. However, she can't, because there is no way to combat these crimes. The only thing that can be done is to react and punish the culprits as a deterrent. There has been a rise of hate crimes since Brexit, but blaming Brexit for each individual event is ridiculous. These hateful people were here before Brexit, and they'll be here long after we leave the EU. Unfortunately, it is an illness in society that no amount of government interference is ever going to completely cure. All we can do is be supportive to the victims and punish the criminals appropriately for their actions. There are no ways to predict these events because, as I said, more often than not, they are spontaneous events that were not pre-planned. That's all I've got to say this time, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.